Namaskar and welcome to Insight. I am Charu Karthike. In this edition, we talk about the social responsibility of the corporate sector. There are nearly 9 lakh active private companies in the country, but it is generally assessed that they do not spend much of their incomes or their earnings as far as contributing towards the society, towards various issues that matter for the society are concerned. Even organizations who are actually doing it believe that much more needs to be done. We've recently seen the Shiv Nadar Foundation allocating nearly 3,000 crore rupees for the education sector in the country. And while speaking to the press, even Shiv Nadar was of the opinion that the India Inc., the corporate sector of India, needs to do much more as far as its social responsibility is concerned, as far as the philanthropy is concerned. Recently also there was this controversy about making 2% CSR mandatory, or at least making declarations about it mandatory from all corporates. There was much resistance from the private sector also, but in this edition of Insight, we'll be trying to focus on all these issues. How much is India Inc. actually contributing towards the society, and how can it actually go up if it is at an abysmal level? So trying to understand all of that in this edition of Insight. And joining me in the studio today is Dr. Aman Agarwal, Vice Chairman and Professor of Finance at the Indian Institute of Finance. Aman, thank you so much for coming here. And Rajiv Mishra, Senior Journalist and CEO of Lok Sabha TV. Rajiv Mishra, thank you so much for coming here. Aman, I would like to begin with you, first of all. Very interestingly, there's a lot of spotlight that has been given to the recent donation or to the recent allocation that the Shiv Nadar Foundation has made for the education sector in India. Similar spotlight was given to the Azim Premji Foundation when it had also announced a similar sort of allocation again for the education sector. Various other foundations, Infosys has a foundation, the Tata's house has been known to do all this philanthropy for a very long time. But it is generally assessed, as Shiv Nadar himself said in a lot of media interviews, that India's corporate sector needs to do much more as far as philanthropy, as far as fulfilling its social responsibility is concerned. How are you looking at how much is India Inc. doing for the society?
You see, it's a step which has been taken for ages now. Setting up educational facilities or schools or colleges or universities have been primarily done by either the governments or large corporations worldwide. The government has a social commitment to do this kind of an activity where they need to promote the welfare of these people, and as a result they have to allocate to education a substantial amount of contribution. In India, unfortunately, we have been contributing very little from the governmental budget perspective. But if you look at US and some of the developed nations, they have contributed extensively in their total budget to education as compared to what we do in India.
Yeah.
Not saying that it has not been done well. Indian education today stands to be among the top ranking educational facilities and provision for education around the world. We are the largest technical manpower provider. So if there was not good education being provided, we could not be the largest technical manpower provider in the world. So not to cow down the government per se, but their efforts in terms of the growth and the amount of needs of the population of this country is fairly low as what this country has a potential for and what the government should do. The corporates in the past as well, as you rightly said, the Tatas, the builders and others have been doing it in terms of philanthropy. Now when the corporates come into place, it is basically done to establish and get a kind of reputation, a kind of position, a place in the society. They run big corporations, they run big factories, they run big corporations, hundreds and thousands and lakhs of people are employed, but that kind of employment does not give them that reputational or that command in the society which an educational institution or an educator, which is a teacher, gets. So this is what most industrialists in the past have been looking for, and as a result they have been getting into this philanthropic activity either out of need, like the Tatars or the builders did when they were given pieces of land in the distant parts of the country where there was hardly any habitation. So they had to create infrastructure for people to come in and perform in their corporations, and for that they prepared and created these educational facilities and other infrastructure requirements which were created by them. And that in any case was a social and philanthropic activity as well, which gave them renown, which gave them stability. People generation after generation are willing to work for them even if they are paid less because of this particular respect which they got by studying at some of these institutions which they could not have afforded otherwise. Now, so that kind of a benefit, reputation, command, confidence and the respect which the society has gained has been given to corporates. Following 1990-91 Cadbury's report on the CSR activities, internationally they formed certain checklists as to what is to be done, and then various governments came out forcing corporations to enter into this activity to do CSR activities, laying down certain checkpoints and then forcing a part of the budget to be given out to reduce their tax burdens. So the option before the corporate was either to do CSR and get a name or to give tax to the government, which again goes into social welfare activities through the government paraphernalia. They say it is better to do social activity like the Bill Gates Foundation does by giving laptops and softwares and training and so on and so forth, and not pay that tax and get the reputation which they would have to build by paying huge amount of money for advertisements. And
so that's like incentivizing, that's like giving tax benefits.
And that's where the corporations have come into play. As of today, there are large amount of benefits which corporations worldwide get, including India, in terms of tax and reputational out of the CSR activity. So it's an outfall of the same CSR which has become a checklist after the Cadbury's report, which has come into place. And it is not out of their requirement or need or wanting to establish a society. Earlier you would have said they will have set up temples, or they would have set up educational facilities or social activities like dharamshalas or homeless people homes. But now you will not see other ones growing, but more of education, because they see that this is going to give them more profound results.
And so education at least is one area, one sector in which India Inc. seems to be a lot of focused as far as CSR spending is concerned. We're being joined on the phone line right now by senior journalist and deputy editor with the Business World magazine, Rajiv Dubey. Rajiv, how much has the business world, as is the name of your magazine, how much has the business world been doing for as far as its social responsibility is concerned? Is it doing enough in India, Rajiv?
The industry, you mean?
Yes, the industry, India Incorporated.
Yeah, so if you look at it, it's taken off only in the past 5 odd years in a big way. It has been done by large corporates like Birlas and Tatas, and to some extent Reliance for some time. But for organizations like the Azim Premji Foundation and the Shiv Nadar Foundation, for organizations like those to come in and invest close to or commit at least an investment of close to $500 million to $1 billion into only activities related to social responsibility is a completely new trend. Earlier, like I think one of the panelists was discussing, many of them were doing it for this, as a social activity as much as for tax benefits. But this in particular is a completely new trend which started somewhere around 5 years ago.
All right. So how much has it picked up since then? Are just one or can we just single out one or two foundations, one or two corporates, or is it spreading as a trend?
It's really spreading. I think it's spreading very significantly. But the two that stand out really are the Premji Foundation and of course the Shiv Nadar Foundation. And Shiv Nadar Foundation's recent commitment of another $300 million will take them almost near what the investment that Premji Foundation has done, or probably overtake that. So both of these are very significant. Other than that, there are many others like the GMR Foundation and plenty of others who have begun to put in money into these activities.
All right, Rajiv, thank you so much for joining us there. Rajiv Dubey, executive editor with the Business World magazine there. Mr. Mishra, how are you looking at in your long career as a journalist and also having interacted with the business community in the country? How are you assessing, is India Inc. doing enough as far as responsibility is concerned?
From last 2 decades, actually, in India, we started talking about the social responsibility and all. But if you see the figure, and very recently published data says that at least 8,000 corporate entity, they do have potential to invest in CSR. But what exactly is happening? If you see the Nifty data, only 39 companies are actually doing CSR. So this is really a pathetic stage. If in India, you know, the divide between rural India and urban India, where lots of brain drain are happening from rural India to urban India, lots of pressure are there in urban India. We need these kind of activities. We need that in education, in training. Corporate industry should invest their money into the training of human resources. But this is not happening. But in last, as our colleague was telling us, from last 5 years, things are picking up. And recently, when Shiv Nadar announced 3,000 crore rupees he is going to invest in education, that's really very good sign.
Yeah.
Government of India also, with the new company law, where you have 2% you need to invest in CSR, is really very good sign. If we see the Maharatna, 5 PSUs, and if you see that what kind of corporate social responsibility they are doing nothing actually. For example, Coal India Limited. Whatever budget they had for corporate CSR, they have invested on last financial year. They have invested only 27% of allocated budget. And that allocated budget was also pretty less if you compare their net profit. If you combinedly see all 5 Maharatnas, they in allocated budget only 49% was invested in real term. So I think these PSUs also need to do lots of CSR work apart from all these corporate entities. They also need to do this.
So that's not a very optimistic picture of the situation. If the public sector undertakings are even the public sector undertakings, if they are not fulfilling their social responsibility, the corporates can always turn to the government and say that your own undertakings are not doing it. Why are you expecting us to do it? Well, it's time for us to slip into a very short break. We'll on the other side, we'll be trying to understand that are things likely to change after the new corporate law, because it talks about giving an incentive. It talks about making it mandatory for corporates to either spend 2%, or if they're not spending 2% of their net earnings on CSR, then at least they should declare to the government why have they not doing it, very clearly stating the reasons why they were unable to do it. Largely this has been welcomed, but there are some voices of protest also from the industry. Can this change the scenario as far as CSR is concerned? Trying to understand that on the other side of this short break. Stay tuned to Insight.
Leaders around the world.
I'm with a very special person.
Their policies.
We have the necessary infrastructure in place.
Their views.
India is a successful story. We need to give serious attention.
Latest issues. Questions that matter.
Trade between Commonwealth countries and all. There is no growth as such.
Answers for the people.
Block level, आम जनता से संपर्क करके. Small parties are coming up.
Broadening the conversation.
We don't have to destroy to the constitutional apparatus.
In talks with Rajiv Mishra every Saturday 8 p.m. in Special Guest, only on Lok Sabha television.
Are men from Mars?
And women from Venus?
Who is the better half?
Who takes the decisions?
Who is responsible?
Who is demanding?
Who is submissive?
Who is independent?
Can men and women ever find common ground? To find out, watch Gender Discourse. Every Thursday, 4 p.m. only on Lok Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Insight, and today we are talking about social responsibility of the corporate sector in India. Aman, if we try to establish a parallel with the international scenarios in this area, you know, after the global financial crisis of 2007-2008, the very nature of the global economy has changed. The very nature of how corporates operate in the West has changed. So if we take a look at the existing situation as far as the corporate sector in Western democracies is concerned, Western economies is concerned, how do we fare as on a comparative analysis as far as CSR is concerned?
You see, the way CSR has been done in India for ages now is still continuing. If you go to smaller towns and what we refer to as the MSME sector, which is very small and medium-sized enterprises, they actually engage in some of these activities without any specific vested interest to basically gain reputation, because they have hailed from that region and they would like to command a little more respect and show to the people that yes, we are contributing. So there has been an inbound system of creating that, and this actually generates a kind of a goodwill which actually lasts them long in times of recession as well. If you really see even large corporations today which have been internationally doing a large amount of CSR activity in terms of social work, social commitment, whether it is towards women or widows or handicapped children, or it is towards primary education or facilitating some kind of new education systems. Now those organizations which have been doing well have actually faced fairly comfortably during this recession period of the last 4-5 years, because the kind of goodwill they have generated, as we say in the Hindus, the kind of blessings they have got, but in real terms the kind of goodwill they have generated is able to pull them through comfortably, because the confidence of the customer, the consumer, because those people who they service are ultimately their consumers as well, are the ones which they are building up slowly and steadily over the period, and that's where the consistency, the durability comes into play. Now you see, if you look at the Bill Gates, now one can say it could be strategic also. Yes, it is strategic, but then it benefits people at large also. Now the Bill Gates, the Microsoft person, he tries to sell his software, his computers. Now certainly he is increasing his profitability, he is cutting it from the corporate social segment, but then those people who are getting educated, they benefit from the education, they get these facilities, they know the know-how, but then they are going to stick to these softwares. They are not going to move to a new operating system or a new kind of a system. They will say, I have used this, it is very good, I would like to use this as well. Whenever they start their corporations or whenever they enter their corporations or in decision-making positions, they will have consistency. I remember when I was a small child in school, Times of India started distributing newspapers free of cost in the school, and then they started charging a small amount. And that was building up that, and that's where Times of India today is benefiting on circulation. Now it was a CSR activity, because students, children in school age are not used to reading newspapers. Now this, because it came free, it came to them, they started reading, they developed that habit, and that's why some of the other competitive newspaper companies have faced problems in terms of development. So they develop
that's where it gets so ironic, it gets so surprising that when CSR has so many benefits, it actually ends up in establishment of a relationship between the society and a corporate, and yet the amount of CSR spending does not go up. We are being joined on the phone line right now by Senior Vice President of DLF, Mr. Brijnandan Yadav. Mr. Yadav, thank you so much for joining us here on this show on Lok Sabha television.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me on this forum.
What we're trying to understand is India incorporated, is the corporate sector of India doing enough as far as philanthropy, as far as fulfilling its social responsibility is concerned? Now, DLF's CSR initiatives are also well known. There are a lot of things, a lot of sectors that DLF invests in as far as CSR is concerned. But what is your assessment? Is that enough? And also, moving beyond DLF, do you feel that India Inc. needs to do much more as far as philanthropy or as far as social responsibility is concerned?
Yes, I think we as a human being, first of all, and starting from myself, we definitely need to think about humanity. And any organization foundation is definitely rest on human resources. So the overall basically development which is happening, there is a share which also DLF basically gets from the same development. So it becomes our prime responsibility also to contribute for society development, so that the mass of the people who are not really privileged to basically have financial where they can really raise their levels, the basic requirements should be met today. So we have taken initiative from various forums where we basically contribute to our financial to people who are basically having financial issues. We are giving education to underprivileged peoples. We are giving food to basically laborers, because we have a lot of contribution in construction industry also. We have seen a lot of construction workers, they work, but they are not getting the minimum requirement which need to be done. So we have done enough for labor as well as even the poor people for their education also. We have funded money, and we as a corporate, not only DLF, I think we as a nation, every big corporate should take responsibility to do more and more for society.
Do you have plans? Do you have any plans to increase your CSR footprint?
Yeah, definitely. We have planned. I am not the right person. There is separate divisions where the gentleman is running complete section on social corporate responsibility. We have definitely big plan to contribute more and more, because.
What is your assessment of the corporate sector as a whole, on the whole? Is the corporate sector in India doing enough for for fulfilling its social responsibility?
There are many organizations they are doing it. I don't say that there is no contribution. All big organizations, they are very, very sensitive about these things. I mean, you name it, all Reliance or basically IT sectors. All these companies, I've seen they're doing it, but we need to bring more and more people into this net for society development. I don't think we as a nation, we are doing enough for the corporate social responsibility.
All right, Mr. Yadav, thank you so much. That's a very significant assessment coming as it does from a senior official of a corporate player, that the corporate sector needs to do much more. It is not doing enough. Mr. Mishra, as far as India Inc. is concerned, I mean, sometimes it is categorized into two broad categories. One is the traditional business houses of India, the Tatas and the Birlas and the likes, and the other ones which are sometimes often also called new kids on the block, the products of the liberalized economy of India, who came in or who built in their industrial houses after the India opened up. It is also these houses that are generally believed to have created this resistance to fulfilling their social responsibilities, towards increasing their CSR funding. Is it that India's liberalized economy norms did not really contribute in pushing industrial houses to doing more for the society?
Yeah, in fact, telecom is a very new phenomenon. Mobile telephony, one of major mobile telephony company, they are doing some kind of corporate social work. What they are doing in Punjab, particularly, Punjab government very recently came up with the idea that the educational institutions should be taken over by corporate in PPP mode. So one of my friend, CEO of that particular, I'm not going to name that company. I asked him, why, if you're doing something in Punjab, why not you should do something there in Jharkhand, there in Bihar, Orissa, and I have given them some name of schools also, some districts also. His first reaction was, I need to check out that is self-sustaining or not. So what kind of social corporate responsibility, what kind of responsibility is this? You're looking, I mean, you want to do social work, but you also want that should be self-sustained. Then what kind? If you have profit 500 crore or 1,000 crore, why not invest 2% of that? If you see the potential of this area, we can create in a short span of just 1 and 2 years, we can create at least 50,000 jobs in this area. And if you see the long-term impact, in education, in training, you will have a potential to have over 10 lakhs trained people in just 2 or 3 years. So that will be a major, thing will happen to India. So if I see what exactly is happening, PSUs also, SBI, one of the best company, one of the best institution of India, what exactly they are doing? Not less than 1% of their profit they are investing in CSR, and again the utilization of fund only 27% of that. ICICI Bank, what they are doing, nothing on CSR. So this is really a welcome step when Government of India is saying that, okay, 2% of your profit, net profit, you need to invest. This is really welcome step. And in future, I think the way things are happening over here, it'll take some more time, but I'm very, very positive that in CSR, things will start rolling out.
Okay. Aman, as Rajiv Dubey told us a little while ago, that the Shivnadar Foundation and the Azim Premji Foundation, they sort of stand out as far as the industry's contribution towards CSR is towards philanthropy is concerned. There are not too many examples to count as if we talk about those similar kind of a model, setting up a foundation in itself and allocating a very large amount towards fulfilling some needs of the society. So do you see any correlation or do you see any particular reason as to why the traditional business houses of India have been believed to do much more for CSR, and why the new businesses that came up in the last 20 years or 30 years, they are generally, it is the perception that they don't do much for the society?
You see, I beg to differ from this aspect to that it's not a question of doing much more or doing less. You know, it takes time. When you have to progress, do any kind of an activity, whether it is setting up a business or doing a social service, it takes time. And once the progress start coming in, and you see, there used to be very good programs on DD, which used to talk about solidarity, things coming up together. You know, one bird coming, the other bird coming, and then together they can take up the nest if they're trying to be caught. Now that is something which is actually talking about solidarity coming together. Most of the traditional institutions, companies which have actually started the social philanthropic activities have actually benefited from this coming togetherness, wherein they started the activity, they left it to the society to take over, and then the people around the society started governing it and taking it forward. The role of the top management or the chairman of the company, which is the chairman of the board as well, was limited to, if there are problems, then they would come into play. There are some kind of donations to be given, they will come into play. Some ceremonies to be performed, they will come into play. But the institution, after a certain stage, will have to run itself, go forward, which in a way is referred to as self-sustainability also, but not exactly the way, you know, as you just said, which is wrong in a way. But this is how you actually build up. It takes time to come up. It takes years to come up. In India, it's fashionable to be on the top list and not something which is very traditional in India. If you go to small towns, the temples donations which come in, everyone, 1 stone to be put up with my father's name.
Absolutely.
How much is the contribution coming? That is written there to the temple. You know, it is to show that, look, I am giving more. I remember someone mentioning these charitable institutions like Rotary and Lions Club. They said, oh, they collect from their members some funds to do social act. Now, I remember some members saying, whatever largest sum you get, you come to me, I will give you more than that. No, you know, so he wants to show that he is on the top of the charts of
one-upmanship.
One up was the question. So that's where the run race comes into play, and that's why you will see some more foundations coming up with more contributions saying we'll give 3,000, 4,000 crores. If you want to do social service, you don't need to make public statements. Work speaks for itself.
So that's an optimistic assessment. If this one-upmanship over setting up similar foundations, if it does come up, then we can expect much more from the corporate sector. We're slipping into yet another break at this point of time. The discussion will continue on the other side. Stay tuned to Inside.
आप कुछ भूल रही हो। क्या भूल रही हो? आपने नल नहीं बंद किया। अरे ध्रुव।
क्या दीदी?
तुम कुछ भूल गए।
क्या दीदी?
तुमने जाने से पहले लाइट नहीं ऑफ की।
उतना ही इस्तेमाल करें जितने की आवश्यकता है। आने वाली पीढ़ी को उनकी सुविधाओं से वंचित न करें।
जागो, ग्राहक जागो। कुछ समय पहले मैंने शरीर पर एक दाग देखा, पर तकलीफ नहीं थी। फिर हाथ की उंगलियों में खिंचाव और सुन्नता रहने लगी और उंगलियां टेढ़ी होने लगी। मैं फौरन डॉक्टर के पास गया।
ये तो कुष्ठ के कारण है।
क्या मैं भी विकलांग हो जाऊंगा?
अरे घबराओ नहीं, कुष्ठ के शीघ्र व पूर्ण इलाज से विकलांगता को रोका जा सकता है।
पूरा इलाज करवाने से मैं पूरी तरह से स्वस्थ हूँ और अब मैं पहले की तरह काम कर रहा हूँ, हैं?
जी हाँ, कुष्ठ का इलाज संभव है और सरकारी स्वास्थ्य केंद्रों पर मुफ्त उपलब्ध है।
प्रियंका भारती?
हाँ।
ए शारदा, विमल, हरिया, सब इधर आओ। ये प्रियंका, बहुत नाम है इनका। अपनी इज्जत और स्वच्छता की खातिर अपने लगन के दूसरे दिन ससुराल छोड़ने की हिम्मत दिखाई और अपने मर्द से शौचालय बनवाने की मांग की।
सुना उसने?
जब सोच और इरादा नेक हो तो सब सुनते हैं, जैसे इसके मर्द ने सुना। शुरू करें निर्मल भारत अभियान। आप भी अपने घर में शौचालय बनवाएं और इस्तेमाल करें। जहाँ सोच वहाँ शौचालय।
क्यों? भूख लगी है।
साबुन से हाथ धुलेंगे तो
सेहत रहेगी। दाल की खुशबू, इसके प्रोटीन का जादू। रोज हरी सब्जी क्यों? इसकी आयरन की शक्ति से होगा गोल और मेडल भी। और पढ़ने में भी है ध्यान लगाना।
बच्चों का अधिकार है शिक्षा और पौष्टिक आहार जो दे चुस्ती, खेलकूद और पढ़ाई के लिए।
अब पढ़ना पक्का।
मिड डे मील योजना का लाभ देश के 11 करोड़ से भी अधिक बच्चे पाते हैं।
Welcome back. You're watching Insight, and today we are talking about the social responsibility of the corporate sector. Mr. Mishra, now we come to the question, how important is it for the government to interfere in this situation?
Right.
Should corporates be allowed to increase their CSR spending on their own free will, or should the government be nudging them constantly, either by making CSR, a certain percentage of CSR spending mandatory, or incentivizing it, or by any other way? Should government be involved, or should government be interfering in this, or should it be left to the individual will of the corporate?
As far as minimum cap is concerned, that is already defined.
Yeah.
You know, the 2% of your net profit. That is defined by Government of India. And I always say that this is really very welcome step.
Okay.
That is the minimum, you know, the minimum line of that. If any corporate wants to invest more, they can do. There is no limit on that. But if we see the government, you know, the bureaucracy and all, and their attitude towards CSR. Very recently I met Lord Swaraj Paul. He do lots of social work there in UK. I have asked him that you're from India, you're an NRI, and you do lots of CSR activities abroad. Why you are not doing it in India? He said that I'm frustrated.
Okay.
Because of bureaucratic hurdles.
Okay.
I want to invest, then I have lots of questions to answer.
Okay.
From where I'm getting money, why I am investing, what exactly will be.
Do you take that as a valid defense? If we take a look at the Aga Khan Foundation, now Sir Aga Khan is also not an Indian national, but he's of Indian origin. He's known as the title that he holds is known as the Aga Khan of India.
Right.
But the Aga Khan Foundation does a lot of philanthropic work in India.
Right.
I mean, I don't know whether it really correlates or whether it is a very high amount of their actual earnings or whatever at that level. But at least Aga Khan Foundation CSR activities are very well known in India.
Right.
So if they can get around the bureaucratic hurdles, the red tapeism and all, then why not Lord Swaraj Paul?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that the things are. I'm giving you just one example that, you know, in bureaucratic system also, if there would be some positive sense, you know, yes, I understand that if any money is coming from abroad, you need to have a check and balance on that, because that money is the fresh money, or what kind of money is that. and that money will be utilized in the what you are saying, that I'm going to do this, so you're going to do that or not, or that you're going to do something else with that particular fund. So some check and balance is required, but over check and balance, negativity on that is the hurdle. I have just given you one example. So we need to create that kind of positive environment by the new law. When you are saying that, okay, this is the cap, you need to invest, and we do have good companies over there. Tata's, what they are investing in social responsibility, almost 4% of their profit they are doing it, although the cap is only 2%. So we do have some good companies also, but if we see the potential, as I told you, said you earlier, the 8,000, at least 8,000 companies are there. They do have potentials, and if you see their investment in every year, 12 to 15,000 crore every year. Right now we do have that kind of potential. If that should go into CSR activities, but if you see the exact amount, that comes to 3,000 or 4,000 crore only.
Yeah, Aman, should the government be interfering in this, or should the amount of CSR spending be left to the corporates?
You see, as Rajiv rightly said, there has already been a decision in terms of what could be the cap. The only problem which comes forward with these kind of decisions is, like the Cadbury report became a more nodal mode for CSR activities. So that becomes like a checklist. So corporate says, oh, I've done 2%, my job for this year has been done. And what happens in most corporations, this is like Rajiv was also mentioning earlier, public sector undertakings do a lot of activity, in terms of giving education, financing education of their employees' children, or even other people around, social activities, sports development, sports facility development, and so on and so forth. They do lots of these activities, but they have been doing it for a long time in terms of developing that capabilities, because they were also forced to start up ventures or start up activities in areas which are not having appropriate habitation. So they develop those systems there. Now, though they never club it as part of the CSR, but whenever a corporate does it, it clubs it as part of CSR. Like we had one of the developers here today. Now, most developers are developing cities. They can call them cities, inhabitable cities, which will have everything together. So what will happen? They will have to develop a school, they will have to develop a university or a college, they will have to develop other health facilities, a health hospital, because they are very far away from the city, so they have to develop a full park, a full
will they call that also CSR?
Now that part of what they are going to do for that purpose, they'll earn money for sure, but it will also be part of the CSR activity.
But how is that? If you're earning profit for something, how does it become CSR?
Correct. You see, the thing is, when they do this kind of activity, it only shows in their balance sheet, this much has been given to set up an educational institution, this much scholarships have been given to so and so, this much charitable activity in terms of setting up a hospital has gone. So your CSR activity is done. Now the hospital, how much is being charged is not being questioned. You see, part of it, wherever they give some concessions, maybe to their own employees, maybe to government employees, they will not give it to a private sector.
Exactly.
Okay, so what happens ultimately? They will charge a fee from the private sector automatically coming into play. We have the Kokinaban hospital which has come in Mumbai. We need to really look at it. What kind of a structure are they going to charge? Now, where would they get the best technological structures?
We've seen a big example of that in Delhi when the Lokayukta ordered, when the government also ordered that most of the business house or most of the private hospitals, they got government land on a very token amount of lease, and they were supposed to keep a separate amount of beds for people from economically weaker sections. They were also supposed to provide free services to people from economically weaker sections, but most of them have not been able to do it. So now either they should do it, or the land will be taken away, or it will be the price of the land, they'll be charged the price of the land on market basis. That's something that was done in Delhi.
Correct.
Is that a welcome move?
No,
can that be more?
Correct. This actually should, because if they're not performing their basic responsibility which they've agreed for, which they've committed to, which they've stood by and said that they would, then I think they need to be called upon the task in terms of doing it as well. But you see, what I was saying was, setting up these nomenclatures, you see, in education itself, till the AICT came into place, which is the governing body or regulator for education, technical education in this country, the rule was that an educational institution can be set up, it has to function for 5 years. After 5 years, it can approach the Ministry of HRD for an approval that is recognized as an educational institution. So the market will test the product first, will test the institution. If they are able to survive for 5 years, then the government will recognize it.
Right.
Now it will become, you take a certificate and open up an educational institution. So it is very easy. Where the corporations, we are moving from licensed Raj to non-licensed Raj. In education, we turn from non-licensed Raj to licensed Raj. Today, even a Panwadi who has nothing to do, who does not know the word E of education, a person who is from the street, he says, I have a piece of land, a property dealer, he says, I have a piece of land, I have an infrastructure, I will create an educational institution, because he knows how to bribe people and get a certificate which says that I can be associated to a university, I can have A regulator, B regulator, C regulator's approval, and I can start an education. Where he does not know what really education means, it is no longer philanthropy. And then he will say, look, I have set up a business. From this business fund, I have created this educational institution. This is part of my CSR activity. Now, since I only need to do 2%, I don't need to even create that infrastructure. I will create a very small to show that I am doing. Now, these rules and regulations need to be brought into check. You know, they need to be more self-sustaining in nature. The government needs to bring in incentivized structures. Like for women, they said 5% tax break if women are put to the corporate structure, if they are made as chairman. Women initially started up. Now, large number of corporations have chairman as women. Even the state institutions like banks have now chairman as women. Now, they will get that 5% benefit automatically, whether it's a PSU or a private company, both of them will get that benefit of 5%. Now, this has encouraged more women to come on the corporate board structure. This will encourage more benefiting structure to come in place. Now, these kind of incentivizations need to be there. Instead of putting restrictions, you need to spend 100 rupees or 500 rupees or 500 crore rupees. No. Let us incentivize. Let us develop a system where there is an incentive for corporate, whether it is on a tax incentive basis, whether it is on a land incentive basis, whether in terms of facilitating certain facilities, whether it is working with government and doing some of these activities.
All right.
You raised a very important question. So Raj Paul, he talked about foreign funds need to be taken care of very well. Education in specific is considered to be a holy cow. Very few countries where they have no education background, like in the Arabic region, they have imported education completely. But otherwise considered to be a holy cow. Why? It influences the mind of the civilians. You cannot allow a foreign institution to come in and train them and make anti-you. How do you know what is being taught to them in the schools and colleges? Now, and this is ingrained into them for life. Now, that is why the education is considered to be a holy cow, and that's why we do not allow foreign educational institutions to come into primary or secondary education. Tertiary, he is quite mature enough. They can be even maneuvered then, but he is fairly mature enough to take a decision when government says 18 years voting right. He should be, he is mature enough to take a decision of what is right and what is wrong. Okay, so that's where the fund which is coming in, what is it coming in for? I remember when
I have to slip into a short break. Let us take this point on the other side of this short break. There's also this issue of foreign funding as far as fulfilling the social responsibility, or as far as spending towards philanthropy of people of Indian origin who are settled abroad and who have made a good fortune. As far as that is concerned, then the issue of keeping a proper check on that money is also that also comes up. We're slipping into a very short break. The discussion will continue on the other side. Stay tuned to Inside.
Do you take pride in being an Indian? Do you know what role you play in the making of India's democracy? Do you know who takes your voice to Parliament? Do you know it all starts with an MP elected by you? Know your MP and be a better informed Indian.
Watch Know Your MP every Friday and Saturday, 8:30 p.m.
गंगा आए कहाँ से गंगा जाए कहाँ रे लहरा पानी में जैसे धूप छाए गंगा जाए कहाँ रे
Are men from Mars?
And women from Venus?
Who is the better half?
Who takes the decisions?
Who is responsible?
Who is demanding?
Who is submissive?
Who is independent?
Can men and women ever find common ground? To find out, watch Gender Discourse every Thursday, 4 p.m. only on Lok Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Insight, and today we are talking about social responsibility of the corporate sector. So, Mishra, this is a time, as far as our economy is concerned, when the economy is also going through rough weather, through rough times. A lot of private players, they suffered a significant amount of setback during the global financial crisis. Some sectors have been badly, very hugely hit, especially the telecom sector, whereas the real estate sector also has been seeing a slump for a very long time, whereas some others have not done that bad and they have also started picking up. So which are the sectors whom we can really look forward to as far as increasing the spending of CSR is concerned? If they would be doing well in the days to come, in the near term, if they're doing well in their respective businesses, then we can expect a good amount of funding from them as far as CSR is concerned. So which are the sectors that we can look forward to?
You know, all the new technology area, the people are involved in these kind of things. And they, before saying something on this, I would like to tell you one more thing, that if we see the health sector, if we see the education sector, lots of whatever amount on CSR people are investing, if you see the amount, lots of money are going into the health sector or the education sector. The reason being, maybe because self-sustainable projects are there in those fields. But if we see the problem of India right now, apart from health, is really a major issue, education major issue, infrastructure. Why not corporate sector is adopting villages? Adopt village, create the infrastructure, everything, road and everything. But what exactly they are doing? They are doing that there should be some return on it. ROI should be there, no matter in the name of CSR only, but ROI should be there. In infrastructure project, they can get some kind of ROI. For example, if we do have problem as far as energy is concerned, in energy sector, why not people are investing in energy sector, where you do have self-sustainable mode in a village, adopt 50 village, adopt 100 village, adopt 300 village, supply them energy with the new technology, get some money back as unit consumed. That will really help India. I mean, these kind of things, these are the sectors where I think that government of India should prioritize, where some kind of incentives should be provided. If you are talking about PPP mode in education in Punjab, why not in why not PPP mode in energy sector? Health sector also, you have lots of government hospitals in district or in block level, but what exactly is the position over there? The infrastructure support base, the machines and all. Why not you get machines from corporate sector under CSR and then run that particular thing in health sector? Lots of issues are there where we need to prioritize and we need to work.
So government and the corporates can have a collaboration of sorts, as far as, I mean, it will help the corporates in showing that their CSR spending has gone up, and it will actually be a shot in the arm, a boost for the several welfare measures that the government needs to take. For example, what Mr. Mishra said, Aman, about the primary healthcare centers. We know that a lot of primary healthcares in the country are in shambles. I mean, if a corporate or if any industry be it of any sector decides to partner with the health ministry and pump in some funding as far as improving the state of affairs of PHC in a particular is concerned, you adopt an area and then you take care of the health needs of that area. That can be done. But then, as you said, there is this danger of corporates finding a via media to somehow get around the rules, showing it as a CSR funding, but then also getting returns from it. So essentially accruing profit from what is supposed to be a not-for-profit activity. But what can be the way around, or how can this be kept in check, that corporates actually do CSR spending and they do not use it for profit and they do not make investment returns on it?
I think the most important, even more than the amount in significance, you see, there's a lot of money which is floating. There's no lack of money in this country, You see, India is even today the largest importer of gold in the world, and it is not the government of India which imports. It is imported for the common man. So he is fairly rich. He is richer than an average European or an American. The poorest of the poor in this country is richer than an average American or a European. Now that is the state of affairs in terms of wealth accumulation. So wealth is never an issue. Money is never an issue. It is a question of will. It is a question of wanting to do service to society. When there is an interest, and I think government needs to come up with projects where there could be an initiative to bring in that interest together. As rightly Rajiv said, large number of things which he mentioned could have been initiated to bring in that structure, to bring in that prosperity to that region, that society. Unfortunately, given the framework which we have in this country and the regulations which flow through the government structure, large number of institutions are not. I remember one of the universities which is now Delhi Technological University, earlier called Delhi College of Engineering. I remember they were alumni who were willing to, from the US, willing to contribute millions of dollars, but there was no structure under which the Delhi College of Engineering could take that fund and for reinvestment or creation. Although IIT did do some of the structures where they gave creating incubation centers, but even IITs could not take in that fund. So there are restrictions in the framework which do not allow at times
even as far as our regulations are concerned, we need to get
smoothen them out.
We need to get more innovative.
Focused towards social welfare. Instead of saying CSR, we should be talking about social welfare. CSR is an American term because Americans are not used to doing it, so they were forced to do it. Indians are known to doing social work. That's an interesting suggestion. We could also be thinking about a change in the terminology. We're being joined on the phone line right now with Mr. Anjan Roy. Mr. Anjan Roy is a corporate commentator and former advisor with FICCI. Mr. Roy, welcome to Lok Sabha Television. We've been talking about all this while about corporate social responsibility and trying to understand, is India Inc. as of now doing enough as far as fulfilling its social responsibility is concerned? What is your take on that, Mr. Roy? What do you believe?
Corporates do undertake socially responsible activities. This can be good for the corporate, good for society also. For example, by engaging with the community, particularly in upstream sector, upstream industries, you can actually turn around popular resentment into popular acceptance. For example, for mining companies, corporate engagement with the community in various activities, including say education, health, hygiene, all that matter, can actually give them an advantage. But whenever one talks about some advantage, this is resented, as if it should not be advantageous to the corporates, it only should be advantageous to the community. It doesn't happen that way. It should be both ways. I was listening to what American companies have done to universities. See, this is a very good way of engaging with socially meaningful activity where corporates engaged into funding innovative activities. Quite often these are not producing results, but once they produce results, they can bring in a very major turnaround in technology or in the way innovation or technology works for society as a whole. Many such projects have yielded very good results to America. In fact, those have been advantageous to the world as a whole. So this is one aspect of corporate social responsibility, but there is another aspect also, which is philanthropy. That is corporates or owners of big companies, people who have large stakes in companies. They have undertaken philanthropy in a very meaningful way, which can give real advantage to society. So
all right, Mr. Roy, that's a very interesting distinction you're making between social responsibility and philanthropy, and it is probably in the latter domain that corporates have found wanting as far as their performance is concerned. Mr. Roy, thank you so much for joining us there on the phone line. Mr. Mishra, final word on what Mr. Roy said, that there's a fine distinction between just fulfilling a social responsibility and actually doing philanthropy. It is in the latter area that the corporates have found wanting.
Actually, I'm very positive now. The reason being why after this in a one-liner, after Shiv Nadar's announcement of 3,000 crore, I'm very hopeful and I'm very sure actually that lots of other companies are going to dedicate some fund for CSR.
Okay. Aman, final word from you. How hopeful
No,
are
I think
you?
we are seeing a positive India coming forth. There is more education sphere. People are coming to know their rights. The right to information has given power to people, not only in terms of digging out information, but also making them aware of what their rights are in terms of getting activities around the globe. I think this we are going to see benefit. Irrespective of recession, India is fairly strong enough because of its parallel economy, and the social welfare or the philanthropic activity which takes place through temples, other social organizations is humongous. And I think corporations are trying to learn from them, collaborate with them, and do the best they can. I think government needs to see how can they motivate and promote such kind of initiatives so that more and more people are willing to come forward. We should not forget India 60 years back was a highly motivated country, got independence, and even today most people in this country are very well dedicated. We can see the Governor of Reserve Bank of India trying to do good for this country, given the fact that he has spent part of his life in the US to earn money. Despite that, he is trying to do good for this country. Clearly shows the positivity which people have.
There's a lot of positivity.
The positivity and will if they have, I think we will not be far from getting betterment for this country.
All right, that's a positive note to end upon. Of course, there's much more to be expected from the corporate sector, but of course, government needs to think about more and more ways in which it can incentivize corporates to do more as far as philanthropy is concerned. That's all I have time for. Dr. Aman Agarwal, Rajiv Mishra, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That's all we have for you in this edition of Insight. Thank you so much for watching us, and do stay tuned to Lok Sabha television for more. Namaskar.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to this edition of Perspective. We'll analyze all the national, international, business and sports news stories. First, a look at the headlines. So we have Iraja's story. And we'll start the discussion with the national news stories in Nation Watch. And joining me in the program is consulting editor with Sakal newspaper, Mr. Vijay Naik. Welcome to the program, Mr. Naik. Let's start the discussion with a new topic, a new issue that has now erupted between the Congress and the BJP, which is a tussle over giving security to Narendra Modi. The Home Minister has made it clear that no SPG cover would be provided to Mr. Modi. But how do you look at this issue now, which has been raised?
I think what the Home Minister said, that SPG Act will have to be amended.
Yeah.
If the SPG